On this episode, we travel to Lakewood, Ohio for Walk to School Day. Nearby Brooklyn, Ohio restricts using cell phones while driving. Pedestrians create their own path to the library in Gaithersburg, Maryland. We visit the Alaska Injury Prevention Center in Anchorage. The East Coast Greenway Trail will link Maine to Florida. And finally, Amtrak will soon allow bicycles on board their East Coast trains. Stay tuned. We're on Waterbury Avenue in Lakewood, Ohio, talking with Wendy Laser. What happened here on April 26th?
My son was walking with his child care provider, his sister, and two other children to the store. They were playing red light, green light. My son was right over there, standing, waiting at a red light. While they were playing, walking up to the store, a driver came down in a truck and pulled into the driveway across the street during the rush hour time when it was very busy, backed up, went about 10 miles an hour into this driveway, which is his, struck my child, killing him instantly. Driver said he never saw him.
What'd you do after the tragedy?
Well, for a long time we did a lot of searching and reading and trying to find ways to cope with it, and I kind of stumbled upon this International Walk Your Child to School Day. Was able to get the city council, the school board, area leaders together to put together a kind of a community-wide blitz on that day on pedestrian safety awareness.
And today was Walk to School Day. What happened this morning?
Well, this morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, we all met together and we were able to get donuts donated. We had balloons. We had a variety of different types of safety things that got dispersed to 10 elementary schools and 2 parochial schools in the community. We sent home a walkability checklist last week and asked parents to turn it in so that we can begin to review what our problems in our community are to make it safer. We had school board reps, we had school employees, we had city officials at each of the elementary schools today talking with parents about being safe, driving safe, and we really tried to create a general community awareness of pedestrian safety.
What message were you trying to give the kids? What message were you trying to give the parents?
Well, we were trying to give kids messages on being safe, walking safely, don't run in the street, look both ways, just basic safety for kids. But what we're really trying to target is the drivers. What we would encourage parents to do is to obey the safety rules of driving. You know, on a residential street, go the speed limit. When you're in a school zone, go the 20 miles an hour. If a person's in a crosswalk, wait till they've crossed. If children are walking up the street, wait till they've completed their walk before you pull in or pull out of your driveway. Obey traffic signals. Make sure that, when it's a red light, you're not going through it. Basic safety things that I think could have prevented this accident.
What you see in front of you here is our Franklin Safety Patrol, which obviously play a large role in safety of children every day here at our school. So our commemoration of this day is to have these students plant bulbs in the garden behind us here in hopes that in early spring, in the month of the young child, they will start to bloom and then remind us once again of all of our good safety habits and our safety rules. We can never remind them enough of all of these good safety habits, and we appreciate every day their efforts in trying to keep the younger children safe as they do their jobs at the corners of our crosswalks and also at our buildings.
Put the point up.
Today is about, while it is about remembering that tragedy and that great loss of that young child, we as a community and Wendy Laser and her family have come together to talk about these children and to, in many ways, establish a community, a living memorial to her child. So today we are really, as a community, coming together to talk about the safety of these children and children throughout this community. And this was a collaborative effort. It began because of the courage of one woman who, in dealing with her pain, came forward and extended her hand to this community in her pain. And today is a result of the community reaching out as well to her family.
And so on behalf of the state of Ohio, I'd like to present Wendy with the resolution. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically just one part that says, everyone should make a plan to make immediate changes to increase the safety of our children who are walking in our communities, to compile a list of suggestions for improvements that can be made.
We're in Brooklyn, Ohio, talking with Richard Hovan. What did Brooklyn do first in the nation in 1966?
Well, John, the little city of Brooklyn, Ohio was the first in the United States to pass the seatbelt ordinance. We were the very first in the nation to do that.
What did people think back in 66 to have a law like that?
Well, the way I understand it, I wasn't a policeman then, but back in 1966, the people were saying, well, Brooklyn, Ohio, you're only 4 square miles. Why should I have to wear it because you decided to do this? No one else is doing this law. And now everybody in the United States, every city in the United States has the law on the seatbelts. So we led the nation back then on that one.
March 99, you're first in the nation again. What'd you do this time?
Well, that's right. Our mayor at the time, John M. Coyne, he elected to enact an ordinance against the use of handheld cell phones while driving on a roadway. Lots of complaints came into the chief's office and to the mayor's office in regard to how dangerous these handheld cell phones have become while driving. He elected to make an ordinance. It was passed in March of 22nd, 1999. And our ordinance reads that you're not allowed to use a handheld cell phone while operating a motor vehicle on a roadway. You're not allowed to answer, listen, talk, or dial. There's 3 exceptions to this. If you're calling on 911, if you're using a hands-free device, and that's separate microphone and earpiece, or if you pull over the side of the road and you put your vehicle in park, then we have no problem with that. Our ordinance is a $3 fine, first offense. There's no court cost. There's no points on your driver's license. It's simply you mail it in. It costs the city of Brooklyn more money to actually do all the paperwork than it does for a fine. And the reason of all this is that we elected to make this such a soft ordinance is that we wanted to show everybody that we're not against the use of handheld cell phones. We're not trying to punish anybody for this. We're just trying to make it a national awareness of how dangerous these things have become on the roadway. And we want people to be safe out there. And that's why we've elected and directed our way of doing it this way.
And when you stop someone that you've observed and you're writing them up a ticket, what do you tell them? How do you inform them of the danger they're creating?
Well, John, to tell you the truth, that I took a real cause for this because one of my best friends was almost run over while he was trying to change a tire on the roadway. A lady came by using a cell phone, went off the roadway, and he had to pin himself up against his car to allow himself not to be run down. The real sad thing about this is the lady kept on going. She either elected not to stop because she was afraid of what she had done, or she didn't even realize it because she was on a cell phone. His family, 3 small boys, were with him, and at the time I thought, I can't think of anything worse than seeing your dad run down and killed in front of you. Those boys would have had to live with that for the rest of their lives. We enacted this ordinance. I took initiative, went out there. I write more tickets than anybody else in the department. I was invited onto the Oprah Winfrey Show in February of 15th of 2000 here. I met Rob and Patty Pina from Perkasie, Pennsylvania. They told their story about how Patty Pina and their little daughter, who was 2.5 years old at the time, Morgan Lee Pina, they were traveling over to family in Hilltown Township, Pennsylvania, when a man on a cell phone inadvertently went through a stop sign, broadsiding their vehicle, ultimately killing Morgan Lee. When they told that story in front of me, their story really touched my heart. After the show, Patty Pina, she came up and hugged me and thanked me for all I was doing. At the time, all I was doing was giving out some tickets for cell phone violators. I elected at that time when I came back, I said, I have to do something for this family. After they told their story, and because of the laws in Pennsylvania, that driver was only fined $50. Kind of left an empty feeling in them. And the Pinas, I think, felt that the law enforcement wasn't doing anything for them, that no one kind of cared for the little people. And this tragedy happening to them, losing their only child, 2.5 years old at the time. When I came back, I thought about this, and every time I write one of these cell phone tickets, at the bottom of the ticket where I put my signature, I put the initials MLP and I circle it. It stands for Morgan Lee Pina. I give out a 3-page informational sheet to people showing Morgan Lee's picture, telling them the tragedy that happened to him. And for most people, it hits home with them. I really consider that there's 2 victims out of all these cell phone accidents. One victim being the person that dies from this or is injured by it, and the other victim is the person that caused it. Most people, and all people are out there, they make a real nice package, wireless does. And it's available for everybody. So everybody has cell phones. They're a great tool if you use them in a proper way. But if you cause the death of another or injure another person, you become a victim too. And I don't want to see that happen to anybody. And I stress that to everybody. I take more time talking to people, explaining to them about the dangers of cell phones over a $3 ticket than I do of anything else. But it's become a real important issue to me. And over this period of time, I've become close friends with the Pinas, and I always let them know that they got somebody fighting for their cause in Brooklyn, Ohio.
We're in North Potomac in Maryland, talking with Alan Migdal, next to the Quince Orchard Library. What's the hole in this fence behind us?
This is a hole that connects this library with the shopping center that's adjacent to it, as well as neighboring communities that are around the corner. And it's an obvious connection that was supposed to be part of the plan when this was presented to the public by the architectural firm that built this. And then it was built and there was no hole in the fence. And now we have the result of that omission. We have problems with them replacing boards of a repeated hole.
Why would people go through all the trouble of punching a hole in the fence? What would you have to do to walk to this library without it?
Well, if you're coming from that direction, to get to this library front entrance, you have to walk all the way around the block. This building is situated facing away from the road, so the front door faces its parking lot in the back here, and it adds somewhere between a quarter to a third of a mile to your walk to come from neighborhoods over there. So if you're walking, that's a big deal.
People have known how to put gates and fences. You mentioned that the architect had even had it in the plans. Why isn't it there? What are the obstacles?
Well, I've been given a number of reasons for why it can't possibly be done. It seems like the biggest sticking point is dealing with the management of this adjacent shopping center, who seems to want the county to assume all liability for anything that happens even on their own property. And the county says we won't do that, and seems to have just dropped the ball. So there's nothing more to negotiate.
I would think a lot of these library patrons walking by their stores would be a valuable source of potential customers. Why is the shopping center so resistant to that idea of potential customers going by their store?
I assume it's just ignorance. That they've also agreed that they think it would be a great thing to have, but apparently whoever is in charge of making the decision has got a problem with, an imagined problem with liability that they're not willing to get over.
We're in Anchorage, Alaska, talking with Diana Hudson, who's programs manager for the Alaska Injury Prevention Center. What is the center?
The center is a nonprofit institute working with partners in the community to improve safety for the people of Alaska.
And you're preventing injuries. What sort of injuries are common?
Well, first and foremost, in Anchorage especially, which is our biggest city in the state, we're looking at motor vehicle injuries and falls. Both of those are bad news to pedestrians who try to use our sidewalks 12 months of the year.
And a lot of those 12 months, kind of long winters here. What are some of the problems that winter brings?
Well, in Anchorage, we are located in a part of Alaska that receives a great deal of snowfall every year. So beginning the end of September, we start to get some pretty heavy weather. What happens is because our community is so new, we really lack the infrastructure to maintain our roadways, and repeated snowfalls start to pack down on our sidewalks. Because we need a place to put all the snow from the road, we also get extra snow packed onto the sidewalks from the snowplow removals. So we end up about 6 months of the year with no sidewalks to speak of. Pedestrians often have to use busy roadways that are already slick and icy and share them with heavy cars and machinery.
Yeah. Long winters here. You also have long nights.
Long, dark nights. The shortest day of the year for Anchorage is about December 21st to December 20th, 21st, where we have probably 5 hours of daylight. But even the hours where the sun is supposed to shine, we tend to spend in some overcast and some pretty gray skies. When you couple that with the fact that most of our neighborhoods lack sidewalks and often are not well lit, what it means is that pedestrians are out walking in the dark and often out, as we've said, in the middle of the road.
What can you do to make pedestrians more visible to drivers who might not be paying as much attention as they should, but even if they are in this dark environment?
Well, the pedestrians are the party that's obviously most vulnerable in any collision between human being and motor vehicles. So the best way to take care of pedestrian injuries is to prevent them. One of the things that we've been experimenting with is increasing visibility of pedestrians as they're walking back and forth in the dark. We think reflectorization is an innovative approach to pedestrian safety that could be used in any community where there's a lot of snow or a lot of dark or unlit streetways. We've tried to increase visibility through a number of means. We've given away hats with reflective strips around the crown so that pedestrians are visible from all directions. We've given low-income children backpacks where the straps are visible, so as they wait in the bus stop during dark winter mornings, drivers going back and forth can see them. We've given away shoe strips because they tend to show up real nicely against the dark. And we've done a lot of coat giveaways with reflectorized strips ironed on them. I think one of the projects that we've had the most fun with and also have experienced the greatest community feedback for is our coat giveaway. Beginning in August, we work with community partners, most notably South Central Foundation here in town, to accept donations of good quality used winter coats. As we get these coats, we begin to iron on strips, and then we distribute them to homeless shelters, and we distribute the coats also to schools areas where there are low-income kids. In Alaska, if a kid loses his coat, it's not just an inconvenience, it's a disaster. If a kid does lose his coat in some of our local schools, the school nurse has a nice cache of winter clothing that she can give to the kids. The fact that the coats are reflectorized is just incidental to the child, but it's actually a crucial injury prevention outreach project that we can do for just pennies a coat.
And if we were to walk around Anchorage in the wintertime, would we see a lot of these reflectors?
You know, you would, and you'd notice that you were seeing them, and that's the point. The hats especially really stand out against the dark. Kids take care of their backpacks because that's what they put their homework and their mittens in, and so the kids wear their backpacks back and forth to school. You see the kids in the backpacks. You're starting to see runners clubs now. We do run year-round here in Anchorage, and we're starting to see runners clubs adopt this reflectorized clothing. We're seeing people walking in the streets now wearing the glow-in-the-dark vests that show up great. I think slowly but surely our community is starting to get the idea that being seen really does count toward injury prevention.
We're in Washington, D.C., talking with Patricia King, who's chair of the board of the East Coast Greenway Alliance. What is the Alliance?
The Alliance is a group that's developing a trail, that's an off-road trail, that's going to go from Calais, Maine to Key West, Florida, through all the major cities on the East Coast. So we're an urban trail, and lots of people have characterized us as the Urban Appalachian Trail.
Where'd the idea come from? I mean, why?
Well, you know, we had a bicycle conference in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1991 in the fall, and a workshop there was called Long Distance Trails. And there were about, 9 people who came to that workshop, including myself. And we started talking about why aren't there more long-distance trails, and particularly why aren't there more trails that go through cities, because most of our long-distance trails are very rural. And we all decided that we wanted to do something, and by the way, we were all trained people, all public transportation advocates. And we decided at that time we needed to do something on the East Coast, that it was the most densely populated part of the country, that the cities were not well serviced, and we just decided to do it on the East Coast, and we sort of called it the East Coast Greenway. That's how the whole thing got started.
Now, how does it work? How does a trail become part of the Greenway?
Every state has a committee, an East Coast Greenway State Committee. The Board of Trustees determined the corridor from Calais to Key West and which cities we must go through. Then we turn to our state committees and say, okay, you have to tell us where within this corridor the specific trail is going to go. So it's up to each state committee. We work from the ground up to find out what's already existing that's in that corridor, what's on the drawing boards that is going to be finished, and then where there are no works going on, and then we try and develop something within those missing pieces with the state committee. And then ultimately, that whole piece that's going to be put together will be owned by other groups. They will be names of other trails, but they will all connect. That's really our job, is to connect, to make this one long corridor. And of course, it's up to us to make sure that when they come to the borders, they meet and they don't come at different angles. So that's our main job.
You haven't been around very long. How much have you gotten done so far?
We've got about 200 miles actually designated. Our designation is road bikeable for the final trail, and that is primarily because we want wheelchairs to be able to use it. So we say road bikeable. And then we have several other criteria, but in the end, we hope to be finished by 2010. And with each year, the number of miles designated is accelerated because more and more the state committees are beginning to put that together and come in with pieces that are finished or being developed. So this year we're going to add 100 more. So we'll actually double once again what we've got already, just because of that exponential increase each year.
The map behind us shows the close parallel between the East Coast Greenway and Amtrak's Northeast Corridor. How will you be able to take advantage of that?
Well, you know, it's really fantastic. Over the years, and I don't know if you bike, but all of you cyclists out there who are your viewers, who want to be able to go, let's say, between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. on a regular basis and bike, or rollerblade, should be able to bike or blade to the train, get on the train without any trouble, get off the train, put on their bike, get on their bike or put on their blades and go to wherever they're going to go, and do that without any trouble. We would like to see that happening all up and down, and of course all of these Amtrak stations that are on this board from Portland down to Miami people should be able to do that. We're also, by the way, hoping, let's say you're a French family, 2 kids, mother and dad, right? You decide you want to come to the U.S., you want a tour. You come into BWI Airport. East Coast Greenway goes around BWI Airport, and there's a train station at BWI Airport. You have a choice. You can take your bike off the plane and bike to Washington, D.C. or Annapolis, Maryland, or you can take the train to Washington, D.C. with your bicycles, tour around Washington by bike. So the flexibility now for traveling without getting in a car or even flying is just going to be so much greater. So that's really what we see in this partnership with Amtrak, giving people much better flexibility and a much more environmentally sensitive way to travel.
We're talking with Stan Bagley, who's president of Amtrak's Northeast Corridor. What's been going on here today?
Well, it's been a very exciting day because we've announced a partnership between East Coast Greenway Alliance and Amtrak, and we're going to carry bicycles and happy passengers on our trains, which we don't do a lot of today. And we're developing that service in a partnership, as I mentioned, joint effort with Greenway.
What are the difficulties in taking a bicycle on a train?
Well, I think, the first thing you have to be concerned about is, safety of all of the passengers and, of course, safety of the equipment of the bicycle. And then you need to develop a way to have easy access that's convenient and seamless for the person who wants to do that, which, is different than crating something up and putting it in a baggage car.
Is this sort of partnership something new for Amtrak?
Yes, it is new, and not only do we have a partnership with Greenway, but we have partnerships with states and other companies all over the United States. And it's really about doing the right thing and giving customers what they want, but also growing our business.
How's this going to work? How long before you have a lot of trains? It's going to take a while to get onto all of them. What happens first?
Well, our initial relationship we've established is over a 10-year period. But we offer this service today. We're going to offer some new service after the first of the year and throughout next year, and we're going to continue on till we have the entire trail covered from Calais, Maine to Key West, Florida.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.